welcome to my channel. Thank you for watching. My name's Laurie and this is my mid-year reading wrap up. This is the first time I'm filming a mid-year reading wrap up, so I put together some things that I think would be fun to talk about and to pull from the list. I've read 90 books so far, and mind you, we are in July, so I know this isn't exactly mid-year, you know, we're 7 months in, but I've read 90 books this year, and I'm not entirely sure how that's happened, because last year I read 120. That means this year I'm on track to 160, maybe 180 if I do another 90 books again, which, I don't know, that seems like a bit of a push, but I have read some pretty amazing reads this year and I'm really excited to talk about it. So we're going to start off with my top 5 reads of the year so far, because this is liable to change. Actually, it's guaranteed to change with the anticipated reads that are coming out this year. So this isn't in any particular order, but Iron and Embers by Helen Shearer has definitely made the list. I was so shocked with how much I loved this. I'm not typically a spin-off series reader. I kind of love the main series and I find it hard to read anything in that world that doesn't follow the main characters. But recently that has changed, and the reason for that is this. This was amazing. This was so good, and it was just a perspective that we really needed, and it was so nice to follow on the story of the world, but the aftermath of everything that happened in the Legends of Thesmar. I really enjoyed it. I think it was so compelling and it was so well written, and the character had so much going on and also going through, and she just had so much development, and you really saw the difference with her between the beginning of the book to the end of the book, and I was just so impressed. I'm pretty sure by the time I finished the book my jaw had actually dropped with how much I loved this and how quickly I read it. I want to reread this again just to annotate my copy, because the first one I read was my Fairy Loot version and I didn't want to annotate my special edition, but the second book is coming out soon, so I think I'm gonna annotate in preparation for that, and I'm really excited to see how things go on from where we left off, because the plot twist was so good. Now, book 2 is realistically no surprise if you follow me on TikTok. It's It's Diabound by Sable Sorensen. Oh, this book just completely floored me. I read this in one sitting and I could not believe how much I loved it. I thought this was going to be a good book. You know, a 5-star. I did think it was going to be a 5-star. 100 pages in, I knew that a 5-star just wasn't enough. It was an infinity star. The way that the plot kind of unfolds mid-book, so you have this plot that you think you're following, and then all of a sudden just pure chaos and everything is unveiling and so much is happening and you're confused, but it's exhilarating. And I just had the best time, and everyone that I've spoken to, I've just put them onto this book because it's just amazing. It's definitely a romantic fantasy that you have to read and you have to experience, and I really loved it. And I really loved the direwolves. I think that was such an interesting premise, and the magic system was so interesting, and yeah, it really captivated me. Next is, of course, The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. Rachel Gillig has a way of writing words, obviously, but she has a way of writing that really just captivates you, and you don't realize that you're reading, and before you know it, you finish the book and you're like, well, what just happened? Because I could not get my head out of that book. I just had the best time. I was laughing, I was crying, I was shocked, I was on the edge of my seat. Rachel Gillig always has me going through so many emotions when she writes books, but I just love the world that she paints, in the way she paints these characters and the way she develops those relationships in between characters. It's just pure perfection. You can't say anything about Rachel Gillig's writing. There's no notes to be had. It's just pure perfection, and it of course had to make the top 5. Now, last but not least, I feel like all of these top fives are books that I'm shocked I loved, apart from The Night and the Moth. I knew I was going to love that because One Dark Window, that duology, was one of the best things I read, one of the best young adult books I've read. So I knew that was going to be awesome and absolutely blew the scale of star ratings. But these other books, they just kind of shocked me with how much I love them. And Nevermore by Miranda Lynn is no different. I loved Till Death. I annotate the absolute crap out of it. But Nevermore, I was like a bit like, I don't know if I'm gonna love the character that we're following as much as I loved the character in Till Death. I was wrong. I love them equally. If I had to pick one, I think Till Death is so good. It's a 5 star. It's amazing. But there is just so much more going on to this, and I think the plot twists hit just that little bit harder in this book because there was no hints as to that coming in. And I just, by the end of it, I was just staring numbly at the wall for like 10 minutes thinking, what the fuck did I just read, and what the fuck did this author just put me through? I think I need to send a bill of emotional damage from reading this book because I was just absolutely left gasping by the end of it, and I just couldn't believe that that was the turn it took. Don't know what's going to happen in Evermore. Don't know how I'm going to function through Evermore, but I'm really excited and also terrified to read Evermore, because I just know that it's going to get worse before it gets better. But yeah, this is a book that definitely deserves a second book because it's the series of interconnected standalones. So you had Till Death, and it was supposed to be Nevermore, and then another book following a different character. But Miranda said that there was just so much more going on with this character that needed to be said, that it needed a second book, and I just agree. I don't think that what happened could have fit in one book. I need a second book, and I need the time that it takes for that character to get through it and everything to resolve itself. I'd rather have a second book than it be rushed. And I just love Miranda's writing. I love the way that her characters just kind of explode off the page, and it's just, the world is so colourful. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just so vivid and colourful in my brain, and it just, when I read her books, it just scratches an itch, and I'm just like, yes, this is what I needed, this is what I want from my romanticises. And yeah, Nevermore was just pure perfection. I don't think I could do it justice on how much you need to read the series, but you need to read the series. And last but certainly not least, The Windweaver by Julie Johnson. This had to be in the top five. I am so happy that it was my book pick for Fairy Loot's Romantasy box because I'm not sure if I would have read this so quickly or if I would have even picked this up if it wasn't in my subscription box. I'm trying to like limit the amount of books I pre-order. I'm trying to only pre-order special editions or signed editions. And I know pre-orders are really helpful for the author, but the amount of pre-orders that I have, I need to calm down. So I'm really happy that this was in my romanticy book because it was phenomenal. It was a 10 out of 10. It was just a mind-blowing experience because 100 pages in, I was like, I'm changed. Like, this is it. This is a 5 star. And I think this was at that moment the first fairly romantic subscription book that was an overwhelming 5 star, in infinity star book, because it blew me away with how perfect it was. Everything was so well balanced, the world building, the plot, the character relationships, the development. I just I couldn't complain about anything. It was just the best read and the best romantasy. And I do think that this is an underhyped book. I'm surprised that not more people are talking about this, and the people I do see talk about this, they have the same experience as me. They're like, overwhelming 5 star. It was amazing, best romantasy book I've read this year. And they're right. It was just so well executed, and there was just something about this book that, although it wasn't really a unique magic system, it was still uniquely done in a way that felt like how do I do it justice? Because I didn't feel like I could totally guess out the plot. I totally felt like I was right there with the characters experiencing everything in the same time as they are. And I just wanted to know more. I wanted to know what's going to happen. I wanted to be inside their heads. And yeah, it was perfect. I think that's the best way to experience to explain it. And I do think this is a book that everyone needs to read because it's just so well done and it's just such a good, amazing romantasy. If you're looking for a romantasy that's going to blow you away, this is it. And yeah, I love elemental magic, and I think this was just really well done and really interesting. And it was like a unique spin on, a common magic system. So it was just it was yeah. I'm going to stop raving about this, but I loved it so much. So I do think this is something that everyone needs to read. But we're going to get onto it. So, those were my top 5 books of the year so far. We're only 7 months in. It's gonna change, or at least, it will be a top 10, and I feel like all these books will still be there. Okay, now, my most surprising read of this year so far, I think this was hard to pick, but I think it would have to be Blood Over Brighthaven by Emma Wong. And the reason isn't that I thought I was going to hate this. I did think I would like it. I just didn't think it would be so mind blowing. Like, I didn't realize how deep this book got and how much it made me think, which really doesn't make me look so good. But there was just so much going on while the story was being told that really had you thinking, like, to real life, and it just had so much going on, and it really hits you hard. And it was eye-opening, and I really, really loved it. I thought I was gonna like it. I did not know I was gonna love it as much as I did. And it just immediately made Emma Wong a auto-buy author for me, because if this is what she writes, I want to read it all. Like, I need to read The Sword of Kagan, because I've heard that one is a really emotional read. And I think I have to experience that book, and I think this is a book that everyone needs to experience because it's done so well, and it's not boring. There's always something going on, and you really feel connected to the characters, and you're really rooting for them and hoping for the best. And they're going through so much, and the main character, who is so driven, who thinks that her goal is the only goal and she has to achieve it, she has to do it for her gender. But when her eyes are opened to everything that's going on and everything that's being hidden from the population, I just thought, wow, I didn't see those turns coming. And I think that was what made it an overwhelming 5 star, because this should be the top 5 books of the year. I don't know why I didn't. I think it's because it was my most surprising read tag, and I wanted different books to hit every tag. But yeah, this is definitely a top read of the year for sure. This was just so surprising, and I still think about it to this day. And I'm so happy I picked this up. So yeah, I just think that's a book that everyone needs to experience. It should be on everyone's to be read list, because it's just so interesting, is the best way I can put it. But yeah, I was definitely blown away with how much that book hit me. Now for my most disappointing read of the year. Surpassed disappointing at this point, because I really loved the first book, and it's Tale of the Heart Queen, and I think the first book is Trail of the Sun Queen. I really loved books 1 and 2, and I bought them when they were still indie published. And the third book, I was like, okay, this isn't as good as the first book to me, but it's still okay. This book, I was bored, is to be quite honest. I think I got like 300 pages in, if that, before I DNF'd. I was just like, I can't. It got so long-winded, and there were things being added to the book that just weren't necessary to the plot. I would say that it was just felt like everything was too stretched thin to make it the book that it was. I think if anything, the series could have been a trilogy, and it could have been a really good trilogy, but it felt like this fourth book was just unnecessary. I started to detach from the characters and not really care what was happening or what they were going through, and when that happens, I know that I either need to DNF or I'm going to be in the biggest book slump of my life, because to put myself through the mind-numbing details that got added as I was reading, and these plot lines that were added in, I was just like, I'm not interested. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't care. Um, yeah, I was really disappointed. I did think this was going to be, I didn't think it was going to be the best finale, but I did think, it would be a good way. I was hoping it was going to be a good way to wrap up the series. But I'm of the mind that this could have been a trilogy, and it could have been a really good trilogy. And yeah, I just wasn't a fan at all. Um, Also, can publishers stop doing these foiled paperbacks? Because the way I didn't even get halfway through this book, and this is what my copy looks like. And it didn't leave my house. Like, I didn't take it with me at all anywhere, because every time when I put this down, I didn't want to pick it up, so I was just picking up other books and I was taking them with me when I went out. So that book just sat at home, and it's destroyed. And so my first two books are hardcovers from when they were indie published. Third book is when it was traditionally published, and I'm having the same issue with the foiling. So it isn't that this is like a defect paperback. No, this is just what happens with foiling on paperbacks, and I don't think we need foiling on paperbacks, to be quite honest. Okay, next is favorite new to me author, and that is Tigist Goma with Immortal Dark. This is a book that I read, I think it was literally my first book of the year, and I was floored with how interesting this book was. It was such a unique take on vampires. I think it was actually the most unique take on vampires I've ever read. It had dark academia, it had secret societies, it had so much mystery and enemies to lovers, morally grey characters, and I think the premise of this book, the way the world is built, and the world that is built is also so unique, because dark academia sometimes can be a bit repetitive, but this one was just so, how many times can I say unique? So original. I didn't see that coming, and I rated it 4 stars. The only reason it wasn't a 5 stars is because I am not a huge fan of the miscommunication trope. I hate the miscommunication trope because I find myself shouting at the book, just saying, communicate. If you guys just talked about it, this would end and things would make sense, and you wouldn't be fighting something that doesn't make sense to fight, and a lot of problems would be resolved by communicating. And to be honest, if that didn't say anything to how I should be dealing with my life, because I love to procrastinate and put things off, um yeah, it was it was so good. I really loved it, and I'm so excited for book two. I'm picking up as soon as book two comes out, because the ending of this book was so much better than the beginning. And don't get me wrong, I loved the beginning. I love how everything kind of unveils, and we're kind of slowly unlocking this mystery. But the ending, that was the best part, because the miscommunication ended for the most part. So I'm really excited for book two. It's actually one of my most anticipated reads of this year. I think it's coming out this year. Yeah, I think it's like the end of this year. So I'm really excited for that. And I think that's, if you love vampires, dark academia, secret societies, plot twists, mysteries, that's the book for you. Now, the prettiest book cover I have read this year. Now, these aren't including special editions, because I think if it's special editions, then it's not really fair. But standard publishing covers, I think, would have to be the Bridge Kingdom series, because I am absolutely in love with these covers. When Danielle L. Jensen announced that she was bringing or the publishers were bringing the US covers to the UK, I was so happy because I wasn't a huge fan of the original covers of the British Kingdom, but these new covers, there is just something about it that's just so stunning. And I think my favorite would be the Twisted Throne, which is the latest installment of the British Kingdom series. I just love the little hints of what's in the stories. Um, and they're just so pretty. I don't know. There's something about it that just really catches my eye and I think is just so perfect to the story. And to be quite honest, I love the series as well. So I mean it had to be the Bridge Kingdom series. Now, the book I couldn't put down, I wanted to pick different books for different tags. So these aren't going to be like my top 5 books. But it would be Riftborn by Greenwich and Lennox. This also had the most insane plot twist to this story. I've not ever read. I think I read Metal Slinger last year, so I guess for this year, this would be the most insane plot twist I've read this year. And I finished this in one sitting. I couldn't get enough. And I definitely understand the hype of this book, particularly for the plot twist. Books I DNF'd this year. I have 2 that I remember DNFing, but I am so sure there are more than 2 that I have DNF'd this year. I feel like I've DNF'd a lot of books this year. Oh wait, Tale of the Heart Queen. I also DNF'd Tale of the Heart Queen. Okay, so I have DNF'd more than 2, but I just don't remember all of them. So I've DNF'd 3 for sure. I'm sure there are more. But the most prominent one that stands out for me is Tale of the Heart Queen and the West Wind by Alexandria Warwick. I really, really enjoyed The North Wind, and I did think I was going to love the rest of the books in the series, interconnected standalones. But The West Wind, I DNF'd like 100 pages in, and there was nothing wrong with the story or the way it was written. It just didn't work for me, and I just don't really like books that have overly religious features. And the FMC in this is like a nun in a monastery, and there are just a lot of parts of this that I personally didn't like that took me away from the story. So I had to DNF it, and I won't pick it up again. I think I'm going to give away my copy, probably to my local library. But yeah, that was the only reason I DNF'd it, because I just couldn't look past the religious aspects and it wasn't for me. The second book, well, the third book I DNF'd is Kiss of the Basilisk by Lindsay Strobe. This is not what I thought it was gonna be, to be honest, and I think I probably should have read the blurb and I would have figured that out, but holy moly, is this the most raunchiest, spiciest book I think I've ever read. Yeah, probably the spiciest book I have on my bookshelves. But this was all spice and no, not a solid, interesting plot. Um, yeah, I feel like this is a book you would read predominantly for the spice, and you wouldn't really read it for the plot. I don't think you would read it for the plot at all, to be quite honest. It's a love triangle, I think. I got to page 233 before I DNF'd because it was just smart scenes after smart scenes after smart scenes, and I was like, wow, this is a lot. This isn't what I was expecting. And I love spice, don't get me wrong, but I don't love books that are all spice and nothing else, and this is what that is. Yeah, that's why I DNF'd. I was shocked. After the first spice scenes, 50 pages in, I was like, oh, okay, that didn't take very long. I don't really understand what's happening here, but yeah, that that's enough to make a grown girl blush. Holy crap! If you want a book that is pure spice, in a fantasy world with a basilisk, then that's the book for you. I may read this in the future and vlog it. But for now, I had to put that down because I was like, I wanted something with plot and world building and character development. Like, I wanted a good romantasy, not just solid smart. So I DNF'd it, but maybe in the future I'll pick it back up. so I won't get rid of it just yet. But yeah, that I was not expecting that at all when I bought it. I bought it because it was on one of my booktubers, a booktuber that I watches bookshelves, and I was like, oh, that looks interesting. Yeah, boy, was that interesting. Holy crap. Oh dear. Okay, that kind of wraps up my mid-year reading wrap up, but I just want to really quickly talk about book goals that I have for the rest of this year. I think book goals, the biggest book goal I set myself this year was to read The Cosmere in Brandon Sanderson's recommended reading order, because that had been on my to-do for so long and I'd put it off for so long. But I would safely say that I'm halfway through The Cosmere right now. I am stuck on Elantris. I don't know what is going on, but there is something about Elantris that I'm just not vibing with. It is the first Brandon Sanderson book that I have been tempted to DNF. I've never DNF'd a Brandon Sanderson books. All his books have been hits for me, but there is just something about Elantris that I'm not vibing with, and I just don't really want to reach for it. So I think I'm not going to say I'm DNFing it. I am putting it down for a future date, and I'm going to pick up the next book in the reading order, which is Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. I also do need to read Mistborn Secret History. And then hopefully the goal for this year is to get at least 90% through the Cosmere, because finishing the Cosmere this year, I don't know how that's going to be possible. I mean, the Stormlight Archives are like 1,000 pages long. They're absolutely insane. It takes me a month to finish the Stormlight Archive because I have to read other books in between because it's very hefty. But if I can get 90% through, I would be so happy. But another goal, which I don't even know why I'm saying this as a goal because I don't think this is at all possible, but I want to cut my TBR down by half. I am at 78 books on my TBR right now. How I'm going to cut that down in half? I've been trying for absolute years to cut my TBR down in half. Actually, I've been trying for years to get my TBR down to 60. Every time I get close, it shoots back up to 70. I think for this to be possible, I need to stop buying books, and well, that's just impossible. Like, that's not a thing that I can do. So, cutting cutting my TBR down by half. We'll see how that's going to happen, but I would at least love to read the books that have been on my TBR the longest, at least by the end of this year, because there are so many on my TBR that have been there for actual years that I feel so guilty looking at, and I'm like, I either need to get rid of these or I just need to read them. So I'm hoping that I will read some of them. If I don't, I think the books that have been on my TBR for the longest, I'm going to get rid of and unhaul, because I'm beyond capacity at this point on my shelves. I have 5 bookcases and 2 shelves like this, and there's no more space for any more books. But we'll see. We'll see at the end of the year what I do, and I will film it for you. But the next book goal I want to have, which I don't know if it's actually a book goal, is I want to reread the Lady of Darkness series for the 4th time, because I'm absolutely obsessed with that series and I just keep finding myself wanting to reach for it. It's one of my top series of all time. Scarlet is my favorite FMC of all time. It's like Lady of Darkness and Throne of Glass pretty much tied. And I really want to reread it, especially in preparation for Dawn of Chaos and Fury, I think is the 4th and final book in the interconnected universe series, which is Reign of Shadow and Endings is the first book. So I think I'm going to reread that entire universe books in preparation for the 4th and final book. But yeah, I love that series so much. It's so dear to me. But yeah, that kind of wraps this up. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe, like, comment, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.